Recording. Hello, everybody. I hope I sound fine. Um, Welcome to another episode of one of my maybe not really podcasts where I press the record button with absolutely no plan and then I put myself on the spot trying to think of what to say, so I need to pause between sentences a lot, or this gets really difficult. Welcome to that. Does it count as a podcast? Is up to you. It's your decision. Um, I just got done uploading my review of Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PS4, which is definitely the coolest game of 2021. Definitely. It didn't win Game of the Year, although it should have. I believe, if I remember correctly, it lost to Hades or something equally undeserving, and I'm sure Hades is fine, but at the time of the Game Awards, it was a brand new game, and I think it really caused a spoiler effect that just split votes. Um, Final Fantasy VII Remake is amazing. Uh, I don't hear that many people talking about it anymore. Um, Now that it's more than a year old, but they should, because it was the best or one of the best games of that year. It's incredible. Um, with these really fun cutscenes and the writing, the mini games, the battle mechanics, it was very immersive. The soundtrack, everything, everything was incredible. It's a fantastic game. And I hope that it goes down remembered really well, and that the next games in this series are really good. I'm thinking that Final Fantasy VII Remake 2 might go open world, because, well, if you've played the old game, the story picks up after they escape from Midgar. You explore the overworld for the first time, and the game really opens up on PS1. And so that's why I think that it's possible that perhaps 7 Remake 2 will go open world once you start exploring the whole Earth. um, there are a few questions about what 7 Remake will look. I mean, 7 Remake 2 will look like, because what happens in 7 Remake 1 is that you end up leveling up so high that at the end of the game you're really strong. There's a maximum level, you get max level materia. You can get really strong at the end of 7 Remake 1, and it looks like you won't be able to transfer your save data from 1 to 2, if I had to guess, or they're going to put you back to level 1 for Remake 2 and basically start the gameplay cycle fresh all over again. It is interesting that this game got a PS5 re-release, and not only that, but one with a new episode and a few new cutscenes on top of that. Um, that is interesting, because it kind of made the PS4 version just obsolete to play. Well, it's pretty common, though. It's pretty common for video games, especially PlayStation video games, to receive a deluxe edition 1 or 2 years later. It happens all the time. Monster Hunter, Dark Souls, but uh, but Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PS4 looks like a PS5 game. I mean, the graphics are almost as good as Demon's Souls 2020. You know, I just thought It looks like I'm playing on a PS4 Pro, even though I don't own a PS4 Pro. I can't imagine games getting much better looking than this. I thought the graphics were essentially next gen, and well, they essentially were. Because the next gen was right around the corner when VII Remake 2 came out. Just came out in April, and PS5 came out in November, so that's how many months? 11 minus 4, 7 months. I think that everybody needs to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I really like it. I had so much fun. It's incredible, and I apologize that I wasn't able to get into Final Fantasy VII, the original, but I still stand by it. I showed you that cutscene where Sephiroth throws the rock at Cloud's gut, just as an example of the kind of stuff that prevented me from getting into the original 7, because it was a ridiculous game. A ridiculous game where ridiculous things happen. I heard that the the translation team was a one-man team that was put on an excessively tight deadline. In fact, check that, could be just hearsay, but I mean, 7 is famous for being poorly translated. There's even a fan mod called Final Fantasy VII Be a Cause. Why is it called Be a Cause? Because one of the most glaring typos in the original Final Fantasy VII is when my favorite character in 7, my favorite character in 7's entire story has one line. They only speak one line in the whole story. And when they finally speak up, I mean, they're a really great and interesting character that fulfills a really unique role in that game's lore. But the only time they speak, the only thing they say is a typo that went unnoticed. They say, because you are a puppet. They mean because you are a puppet. There's an extra A in there. I mean, how many people worked on this game, and one of the most important characters in the story says one line, and in the English version you screw it all up? Yeah, I mean, Dragon Quest 1 through 4 on the NES are better translated than Final Fantasy VII was in 1997. It's absurd. I couldn't get into that game's story. I thought, like, wow, cool cutscenes, cool ideas, really just bottom of the barrel animation outside of those cutscenes. Metal Gear Solid looked like, you compare any other PlayStation 1 game to Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy VII looks last gen. You compare it to Metal Gear Solid, came out only a year later. You compare it to Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX. You compare it to, what are some other PlayStation 1 games? I don't know. It's, I'm sorry. Yeah, I played Final Fantasy VII wanting to like it, and I was really bored, and I don't think it's my fault. I think that my expectations were too high, because this is supposedly one of the greatest RPGs ever, so I expected one of the greatest RPGs ever. Didn't get that. Sorry. A lot of people might not be happy to hear me say that. But then again, a lot of people aren't going to watch this video. I have no audience, and that's fine, because right now I'm making these videos for the sake of myself, because I want to, and I think I should. Because I play a lot of games, and I really like them, but I don't have quite enough people to tell all of my thoughts on those games, and so I do it in this way, or at least I try, but it's very difficult. Video making is a long and difficult process, because creativity, being creative with any media format, is a difficult process, because you gotta make something out of nothing, and that doesn't happen naturally. That doesn't happen without any input. That doesn't happen without a first step and then a second step and then thousands of more little steps. So, I'm thinking about, currently, I've uploaded 2 reviews. This one's my 3rd, and I'm considering this to be season 2 of what I used to do back around 2017, and so far I've been keeping season 2 private. I've been keeping the videos unlisted so that I can only share it with a few people that I want to see it, because I'm not sure that I'm good enough for this right now to have a large audience, and that makes me a little nervous, but starting right now, I'm thinking about making the videos public, and if anybody happens to stumble upon them and watch them, then that's good. Maybe they'll have some feedback. Maybe it'll be feedback that I care for, but I understand how amateur that these videos currently are, and I clearly have a lot of work left to do to get better at being a writer, being a narrator, and being an editor. Those are the 3 main things that I work on when creating a video, and obviously I've never been perfect at it. I think if you watch my videos, then it'll give you a greater appreciation for the people who are really good at it, because I bet you might watch people like, who reviews games? Scott the Woz, Old Jontron, Peanut Butter Gamer, I don't know. You watch people like those, and they make it look easy, don't they? Just, turn on a camera, make some jokes, say what you say about the game. It's not easy. It's not easy, and if you watch my videos, you can see that, because you can see where I mess up that they don't, because they've had years of practice and experience. But it's something I want to do. I'm going to keep doing it. And that's why I'm thinking about making the videos and the channel public, so that I'm not just throwing them into the void anymore. Currently, very few people watch them, and only people that I know personally. So, maybe that'll change. What I'm not thinking about, however, is going back to my old channel, because that's a bit of an odd situation. I have 519 subscribers on my old channel who are slowly going away. I noticed that number going down very slowly over the years and months, and I know that if I were to upload a video on that channel right now, I'd just get what would happen is I would instantly lose a lot of those subscribers, and I would get a torrent of comments saying, "Who are you? I don't remember subscribing to you." And that's fine. That's a rational reaction, because a lot of the subscribers I got were from a fluke anyway. And they didn't really come to me for me. So I don't need them. I don't need an audience. It's okay. It really makes it even harder. Well, back to the games. I so far have been... I gave Shadow of the Colossus a mediocre review, slightly above average. But this is 2 videos in a row now that I've rated games 10 out of 10. And that may not be common for reviewers in general that you might have seen. But the difference between me and them is that I am not playing the games. I'm not choosing the games that I play in order to entertain someone. I am choosing the games that I want to play, and then I am talking about them. And it is no coincidence that I am choosing to play good games because I want to play good games and have fun. That will continue to be a pattern, most likely, throughout my next many reviews. I will continue to talk about a lot of good games that I like, and I will sound excited while I'm talking about them. I guarantee there will be some variety in that mix. I guarantee I'll talk about a few mediocre games and a few bad ones that I choose to play, but maybe you can look at this as some sort of glorified form of diary, because I would play these games, video or not, and then after I'm done playing them, I'm like, wow, I gotta talk about this, and so I make a video about it. That's how it works. What I understand about video game reviews is that people are drawn to watching bad video game reviews because they find that funnier, obviously. And also, they wouldn't want to watch a review for a good game because that might spoil it. They'd only want to watch a game get trashed on epically. So that's the appeal to people like the Angry Video Game Nerd, the Irate Gamer. That is not quite the angle that I'm going for right now, obviously. Maybe in the future I'll talk about more bad games, but I'm not really concerned about clickbaiting people into coming to me with worst game on the NES. Is this the worst game on Steam? Although I have played some really terrible games in my life. Superman 64. I have E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but I haven't played it because I don't have an Atari 2600. And Metroid Other M. I'm a defender of that game. I acknowledge that it is bad, but only because of its entire story. It's really cringe cutscenes and writing. It actually has solid gameplay. I mean, the gameplay has some weaknesses too, but it can actually be really... That game can be addicting. At least when I played it, that's what I thought. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake was possibly my favorite game of... Well, it is my favorite game of 2020. What do I mean possibly? This video was not easy to make compared to the other two. It has been the hardest one so far, obviously because it's longer. I don't know how many hours it took me. I'd estimate somewhere between 6 to 10 hours total. 8 to 10. It was scattered throughout the course of several days, and also the reason that there was such a long delay between the last video and this one is simply because not because I took a break from videos, but because my work on videos has been scattered between multiple different projects, and it caused there to be a longer span of time before the next review was done. But in the long run, all the work that I've done over the last month will pay off in the form of multiple different videos. And I think that the next videos will be pretty interesting for me to work on. I stand by everything that I say in my VII Remake video. It is my final opinion. Maybe I should have taken that. Just one thing. Maybe I should have taken that half point off of the game's rating because its side quests suck. And you spend a lot of hours doing those side quests. Maybe it deserves 9.5 out of 10. And but too late now. I think that in this video the writing and the narration could have been better. Both my choice in words and the sound of my voice could have been a little more effective, but that's what we get when I'm both new to this and nervous. That's reality, so don't expect too much more from someone, from a kid who does this as a hobby. Well, is there more to say about the game itself? I love it. I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. There are some people that I've heard who have qualms about the changes to its story. I have a few. I thought the final mission had some parts that were done less effectively. The final mission, like, there used to be a boss battle in an elevator. That was a lot better in the original. Now it's not on the elevator. Oh, sorry for spoiling. Okay, minor spoiler alert. Minor spoiler alert. If you're really sensitive about this, don't listen, but I'm not going to get too deep into it. There's a part where you're following a trail of blood up some stairs, and in Remake they replaced the blood with purple slime. Not as scary. The part where my favorite character in the game, I'll give you a hint, their name starts with a J. Their initial reveal is more effective in the original game. In the new one, they're revealed in what is the worst level of the game. Although it's still a good one, it's just the weakest level of the game, and it really feels like filler. Let's see. When you meet a character called Domino, there used to be a puzzle that you do for him, but now there is no more puzzle. You just speak to him, and I missed the puzzle. The character Red 13, you may be familiar. Red 13 is an animal, a talking lion guy. He used to be cooler. He was a just much... Well, you could play as him. You could play as him in Final Fantasy VII, the original, and in Remake... Nope, he's an AI that follows you around. Lame. Lame. There is... A lot of the end stuff is different from the original 7. I guess Square was thinking, people have been asking for this game for so long that we have to give it a really epic and unexpected finale, right? That they don't see coming. But they should have kept the ending truer to the original. The ending of the Midgar arc. It's forgivable, and I'm sure that it won't ruin the sequel, but there were some changes at the end that were a bit too extreme. I mean, the final boss of VII Remake is like, what? It's happening. But whatever. It was just so many good moments in that game. Everything that happens in the Wall. Oh my gosh, what is it called? Wall City, Wall District, Wall Town. Everything that happens in that place is amazing. Some of the best scenes of the game. The cross-dressing uh, scenes, the dancing rhythm minigame. Oh my gosh. Uh, I loved this game's battle system. One of the most fun action RPG battle systems I've ever experienced. This game is good. It feels more like a standalone product than just one part of a whole. It really stands on its own merits as a fantastic and memorable action RPG. Personally, I never died. I never got a game over. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe I was really good. I played on the highest difficulty that was available at the beginning. I didn't play on the hard difficulty you unlock at the end, though. This game also has a strange difficulty setting. I think it's called Story, where the battle mode supposedly basically plays itself, so you can just focus on the story. I didn't try it. I didn't really understand it. I think I did every single side quest in this game. I think I completed every objective. And I still, to this day, after a year, listen to its music, because it's one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a JRPG. I mean, Airbuster, J character's theme, the final boss theme, the main theme, the new theme. I can't remember what it's called. The one that plays the instrumental version of the credits theme is what I'm trying to talk about. It's actually, I mean, the Turks battle theme, the Reno battle theme, the Rufus battle theme. There are so many amazing songs that I can't remember them all. I would have to. They rarely reuse songs. It's like every cutscene has its own song, every level has its own song, but then when you come back to the same level at a different point in the story, it's a new song? Incredible. I'd have to go back through the entire soundtrack to just pick out every decent song to add to my playlist. Well, trying to think of more about VII Remake that I can talk about. I finally like the characters. I said in my 7 PS1 video that I said the only character I really like is Sid. He has some great moments, and every time his theme started playing, I got chills. Well, I like every character now. They really are well executed. Cloud is cool. My previous complaints with Cloud's character in the very poorly localized version of the original 7, I didn't like how he was just really edgy. Like, I don't care about anything. I'm going to stand in the corner with my arms crossed and just ignore you all and frown. He's still exactly like that in the remake. But he has a heart. He gets teased for that a lot, and he has moments where he really warms up. It's just, yeah, he's trying to look cool. He's an ex-soldier turned terrorist. He's a naive kid who doesn't really know what he's doing. It makes sense. Tifa, I used to think that Tifa was too dependent on Cloud, character-wise. Like, solely designed to be Cloud's, part of Cloud's love triangle, and that there wasn't much going on with her. She's better now. I never paid much attention to the fact that she owns a bar in the original game, but now it's like a big deal that she owns a bar. It's one of the central locations. Uh, she has a lot of heart. She's funny. She's pretty much the de facto leader of Avalanche. Of course, there's Barrett, who is more of the lead operative in missions, but Tifa's also very important to that group, and she owns its headquarters. Speaking of Avalanche, I like how a lot more detail and context is added to the world in this game, like how they state that Avalanche has multiple branches. What do they call them? Cells? And that this Avalanche group that you play in with Barrett is actually just a small offshoot that's considered more extreme, because Barrett didn't think that the other Avalanche cells were extreme enough, so he formed this small offshoot that goes around bombing Mako reactors. And that's a good detail. That's something I never would have thought about, and there's a lot of stuff like that. It's also interesting that you play as what are undebatably eco-terrorists. You bomb 2 reactors, and directly, if we're not even talking about Sephiroth's or Shinra Corporation's meddling / influence / whatever, Avalanche directly causes the deaths of innocents. And Barrett has blood on his hands, and he explains to you why he justifies it, and it's fascinating. I mean, he's a lovable guy. You meet him with his daughter, they have beautiful scenes together, he's very wholesome. I barely even remembered he had a daughter in the original game. I mean, I did. I remembered Marlene, that's her name, right? But she's not super important in the original 7, kind of like a lot of characters. They gave more importance to Biggs and Jesse, and there are some good secret optional bosses and super bosses, good side quests. But going back to the characters, Barrett, I didn't like how... I didn't talk about him in my review that you probably just watched if you're listening, but Barrett's quirk that I disliked in the original 7 was that he was too confused most of the time. It was like he wanted to be the leader of the team, he's the head of Avalanche, so he expects himself to be the main character of the story, and that makes sense, but just his only actual practical role in 7 was that Cloud would say, "Okay, we're doing this," and Barrett would say, "What? What the heck? I don't know what's going on. What's happening right now?" Every scene he was like that. "I don't know what's happening. I'm just along for the ride." But he's trying to take charge but failing every time. And like the only thing he ever did was ask questions. And the same could actually be said of Cloud. I mean, have you played Final Fantasy VII? Because the only stuff that Cloud ever says when Sephiroth's around, the only stuff Cloud ever says is, "What? I don't know what's going on. What is a reunion? I don't even know what a reunion is. What's happening right now? Something's wrong with me. I feel this strange compulsion to do what he..." Okay. Not getting into that. Cloud and Barrett, both 2 very confused people. It's kind of like... Have you ever played Metal Gear Solid 1 and you realize that a lot of Snake's lines are just repeating what other people say? The Colonel will be like, "Metal Gear," and Snake will be like, "Metal Gear, Meryl, Liquid Snake, Foxhound, Donald Anderson, Otacon." He just asks a lot of questions like that. He just wants people to repeat things. He's confused too. I guess maybe this is just something that writers do. Maybe it has something to do with Japanese to English localization. Aerith, I talked about this in my review video. She was one of my least favorite characters in the original 7. She really confused me because she never said anything that made sense. She was always on about like spirits talking to her, and she seemed like some kind of hippie. She would be standing out in a field, let's say, and go like, "Oh, I can feel the grass talking to me." And I know for what exact lore reason that she can communicate with the earth, but it wasn't super well conveyed in the original. She was just really trippy, always saying strange things, like that scene that I included in my video where she finds a purple pond and just leans into it and it's like, "What? I can't understand what you're saying. What is that?" I know she can communicate with the earth because of her ancestry. It was even stated many times in the original game. But then there was that scene where Cloud has a dream about her, and she says, "Then why don't you really worry about it? What does that mean?" Trust me, it doesn't make any more sense in context. She's talking about Sephiroth. Cloud's worried about Sephiroth. She's like, "Don't worry," and Cloud's like, "Oh, but I gotta." And she says, "Well, then why don't you really worry about it?" That's some of the worst translating I've ever seen. I think this guy are sick. That's a classic meme. That's Aerith's line. I think this guy are sick. But she's a really great character in this new game. They all are. They're just so heartwarming. Sephiroth, as you may have deduced, he appears much earlier in Remake than he does in the original. In the original, he doesn't appear until well into the mission at Shinra. Oh, okay, I'm not going to spoil. He doesn't appear until later on, and he, in this game, appears near the beginning. Because, again, Square spent so long making this game, they were like, well, we can't disappoint people. They want to see Sephiroth. We got to show them Sephiroth. They want a cool climax. We got to give them a new final boss. But he appears very early on in Remake, and he does a few new things. Just a few new things that he didn't do in the original. If you play the game yourself and you know the original story, you can make up your own mind about whether the new additions are weird or justified. I thought almost all the new additions were justified. Sephiroth, I didn't like his characterization in the original, and it's still not perfect in the remake, to me. Every time Sephiroth opens his mouth, he's like, Will you be joining us at the reunion? Have you accepted the invitation from your mother?" I see. I don't think that you are able to participate in the reunion. If you would like to find out, then follow. He has trouble socializing. He has trouble, clearly, if you look at his Sephiroth's character, he has trouble sympathizing with others, understanding how other people think. He's psychopathic for one thing, obviously, because he doesn't feel human emotion, and that's an intended character trait, but I feel like it's not intended for him to just be unable to communicate with people. He acted weird. He was just socially weird. Sometimes it was really funny how socially, like, throwing the rock at Cloud's gut. I'll never get over how funny that image is, and then he does a front flip and just flies away. Okay. Okay, that's cool. I'm so intimidated. Playing the original 7, I was really disappointed with how Sephiroth doesn't even have any line of dialogue during the final disc of the game. Can you believe that? And then there's Safer Sephiroth. Yeah, that's a great example of translation. Uh, Safer Sephiroth. He... In the remake, I thought he had the weakest voice actor. I always imagined him sounding like Liquid Snake. I imagined him talking like, are you going to be at the reunion, brother? You know, brother, Snake. That's how Liquid talks. But I imagine him going like, we will take over the world together, mother. Mother, brother. But in the new game, he has an American accent, which is not how I imagined it. And he just sounds like a really low-speaking American kid. He's edgy as ever. Great character. I'm glad he's in Smash Bros. He deserves it. He has some cool abilities, as always. I like this game a lot. You should please play it. I've been talking for 42 minutes. That's a lot of time. So, nice. Thank you. Play Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate on your PlayStation 5 device now. It's probably good. There's a new episode including Yuffie, whose name is spelled like Yuffie. And, I'm gonna play it. I haven't played it yet. I'm gonna, though. Looking forward to it.